Greetings everyone. A warm welcome in today's leadership lecture. We are deeply honored to have Dr. A N Ravichandran with us. Dr. A N Ravichandran had a distinguished corporate career, retiring as the CEO and board member of a leading Indian company. After retirement, he fulfilled his long-held dream of earning a PhD and documented his inspiring journey in his book, The Making of My Dissertation, Challenges of a Mid-Career PhD, which is available in leading libraries including IIT Madras, IIM Ahmedabad, and Alumni University. In today's session, he will share step-by-step journey of pursuing a PhD, highlighting the importances of mentorship, research processes, support systems, dedication, and perseverance. He has delivered similar talks to over 3,000 PhD scholars through Anna University's PhD induction programs. A BTech from IIT Madras, MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and PhD from Aligarh Muslim University, Dr. Ravichandran has also completed a program in mergers and acquisition at the Wharton School. He served as an associate professor at AIMA CME, co-authored the book Strategic Marketing Management with Professor Rakesh Khurana, and has invited to serve as the TTK Chair Professor of Marketing Management at IIT Madras in 2001. He has also taught at IIT Bombay, LIBA, and other leading institutions. He has held leadership positions at Bajaj Auto, Simpson and Company, Crompton Graves, and J.K. Fenner, and has received several prestigious recognitions including the CII Frost and Sullivan Indian Manufacturing Excellence Award, the CII XM Award for Business Excellence, and the Best Case Study Award among submissions from over 300 business schools in the Asia-Pacific region. Before proceeding, I would like to take a moment to invite Sunita ma'am to hand over memento to Dr. Ravichandran. Let us now warmly welcome Dr. Ravichandran.
Very good afternoon. Now, right in the first slide, you can see that there is a marathon runner there. So, you know the hint. So that's what we're all here, to get that magic degree to change a Mr. to a doctor or a Miss to a Dr. Miss. So that's exciting, isn't it? So let us just get ready for that marathon run. So this is who I am. He has already introduced me. Sorry, what's your good name? Abrar already introduced me. So let us get going. Researcher by choice. I did my PhD at the age of 60. So is that encouraging? You call yourself old generation. So it must be very encouraging for all of you here. It took me over 6 years. 6 years is like, you can call it execution time, as different from run time. You know the difference, right? The computer scientists will know the difference between execution time. Execution time is from start to finish how much time it took. The run time was actually about 4 years. The total time it took, including coursework, to complete my PhD was 4 years. But the total execution time was 6 years. All administrative delays and so on and so forth. Both these timings are very important. That's also part of our learning. I learned over 200 lessons. I documented these lessons, like 211 lessons to be precise, in 14 chapters in my book. So these 14 chapters in my book cover 14 different aspects of a PhD program, let's say. 14 different aspects of the process that a PhD is all about. PhD is a process. So let us just keep that in mind. Demystifying a PhD scholar's journey. So that is the purpose of my presence here today. Now, what is demystifying? When you demystify, What you do is that you take a lamp, the path is unknown, right? I think most of you can emote to this point. That I don't know how many of you are freshers and how many of you are already there ahead in your journey. The path is uncertain. So you got to have a lamp. The lamp guides you to go to the next path. So that's why the expression demystifying a PhD scholar's journey. What I'm going to talk about, this presentation is based on my PhD thesis. See, any presentation which has no basis, a general presentation, do this, follow this path, follow this advice, don't do this, kind of goes over your head. So I decided that the basis of my presentation should be based on some basis with which I am familiar. So it is my PhD thesis is the basis. It's a first person account. My entire book is a first person to second person account. That's precisely what I plan to do today in about an hour's time. Out of 211 lessons, I plan to place before you maybe around about 20-30 lessons, let's say. So just so that you can sample as to what it is all about. Why did I write the book? See, actually, after completing my PhD, I started drafting a 11-page write-up for our I Am Ahmedabad in-house magazine. After finishing it, I wrote some more. I kept writing. And finally, I realized that I have so much to share. So my memory bank was helping me to recall as to what all happened during my PhD for all those 6 years. It took me about a year's time to bring out this book. And my first experience with this book was a very pleasant experience right in this premises, my alma mater. On the 29th of March 2025, I went to invite our director for my commercial launch on the 19th of April 2025. So the moment he saw this book, he said, no, tomorrow you're going to come here and you're going to address the valedictory session of your AIRSS, All India Research Scholars Meet. The third day was ongoing. The fourth day was a Sunday, the 30th March 2025. And I just had 20 hours to prepare. That was the first time I made a similar presentation to a group of about 500, 600 scholars, including all of you all, plus people from Pilani and all over the country. Most satisfying experience. Why I am mentioning this? There is a context to it. Now, my subject is in the area of social sciences and branding, right? I just talking to a few of you. You're all hardcore engineers, most of you. Some of you are doing your PhD in maths and so on. But Professor Kamakoti said in his speech that out of these 211 lessons, at least 100 applied to me. So imagine a technocrat like him endorsing that 100 lessons are applicable to him is the best endorsement you can get, that this is a universal book. So hopefully whatever lessons that we learn today are going to be a little universal, applies across the board, whatever be your field of choice. So that is the most important take from this. So wanted to share my learnings with the people walking this path. Now, some statistics. Every year, 25 to 35,000 PhDs are awarded across India. But 8 times this number enroll for the PhD programs each year. That's like 240,000 people roughly enroll for the PhD program this year. But I just found out, okay, so the strike rate is just 12%. Okay, it may not be true of an institution like us, but I'm talking about all the PhD applicants across all fields is what I'm talking about. By the way, in the past year, the number enrolled has gone up by 25%. So that shows the hunger for doing a PhD among people in the country from various walks, from defense, from industry. The need and the hunger to do a PhD seems to be quite universal. Most people give up just when they are about to. Ross Perot was a very seasoned businessman in the southern part of the US. So most people give up just when they are about to achieve success. So from many of your point of view, this is how the progress happens, right? You agree or you don't? You agree with this? So, see, I've picked up these slides with a lot of thought process. All right. So in the humor, there is also, I'm conveying a very important message. As I move along, I'll be talking more and more about this, what is called a winding path. So in my book, I talked about this winding path full of thorns, full of things that you don't anticipate and how you got to get prepared for it. Now again, I'll tell you about the lighting the lamp. Because it's a winding path, there is some unknown element in the whole PhD process. So when there is an unknown element, it is very important for you to light the path as you go along. If you can relate to your own experience with whatever I'm saying, that's exactly what I'm expecting from you. Now, these are all, you can roughly take a note of this. Whatever be your subject, at the end of the day, when you make your dissertation, this is how it flows, right? Now, first, look at the first three. All of us have to identify a research gap, an opportunity, right? And then there are four concepts called research problems, research questions, research objectives, and research design. These four concepts mean four totally different things. I'm going to talk about all that depending upon the time that we have. It's very important for us to finally understand the distinction between these terms. And understanding finally the way English language is adopted to these terms is a very important criterion for you not to make or minimize the errors in your PhD process. We'll come back to this. So we already said that, we all agreed actually that it's a long winding walk. So what do we do? I mean, it has taken me 6 years. It may take you 4 years. It may take you 7 years. You don't even know whether you will get your doctorate. So, but what is in your control is the next milestone. So, it is very important for all of you to split your task, to learn to split your task. Identify the next milestone and work towards reaching it. In my case, I remember that, my dean, when he interviewed me, was obviously about 5 years younger than me, right? And he said, okay, Mr. Ravichandran, what's your career objective? He asked me. I discerned a slight smile when he asked the question. So I said, I'm actually very content with what I've achieved in my life. But this is something which I'm trying to prove to myself, that I can go through the process. So that's how it is. So identify the next milestone and work towards reaching it. In my case, the stakes were very low. I really did not care if I would make it or I will not make it. So therefore, I was able to work with little stakes, with less stakes. That may not be true for most of you, because for you, this is bread and butter. But if you can practice it, you will find you'll be able to de-stress much more and be able to work with a lot of energy towards the next milestone, right? Now, I'm just giving a sampler about the lessons learned. It is never too late. PhD is a lonely path. I mean, you may be active in your social life, you may do so many things. At the end of the day, you got to realize that you got to be determined to walk a lonely path. So having made this choice, and for a long period of time. So you got to have the staying power to walk a lonely path for a long period of time. So in fact, when I started this, many of my colleagues, my friends completely dissuaded me in doing this actually. Actually, I mean, I had a very interesting experience because as he said, Abrar said, I was invited to be a TTK chair professor here and I had a lucrative job in Mumbai. I moved on. So therefore, IIT Madras was actually, DOMS had just started at that time. I went to DOMS, I met the head HOD there, and he looked at me very kindly, like looking at a child wearing a wrong button in the wrong hole. I said, why is he looking at me so kindly, So then he said, sir, like somebody came 2 years back. How many of you understand Tamil? At least some of you do, many of you do. So in Tamil, he said, sir, nalla irundar sir. Okay, means, oh, acha tha. Dekhne mein acha tha. That I think some of you understand, right? Couple of weeks back, he had come and he was wearing beard and moustache and stuff like that. So that is his way of dissuading me from going ahead with my intent to do a a PhD. Well, I have not gone back to him and given either this book or said that I completed my PhD. But most important thing is that it's a lonely walk, and you got to be determined to walk for a long period of time, and the motivation has to come from deep within. Now, I suppose that all of you, having come here, have gone through the whole process of why I want to do a PhD. And if you've not done that, examine yourself again, that this is exactly what I want to do. PhD is a highest degree and a completely new process. I want to talk to you about it. See, retiring as a CEO of a company with 37 years of experience, I had my own ego. So I said I'm going to do a PhD in a very big subject. I said I'm going to compare India and China. I had a lot of data about the two countries. So I said I'm going to do a very big research, compare these two countries and prove a big point. Okay? And when I met the first guide, he said, you got to narrow down your scope and make it focused. So that was a humbling experience for me, because I thought PhD is the end of all research. I'll just come to that. Okay. So to make progress, you should dedicate time on a daily basis. So in my case, what I did is that I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning. Whether I was traveling or I was at home, I was working, 4:30 to 6:30 was my time. Nobody can take that away from me. So to make progress, see, many people are wired to kind of just take a break for months and then be at it for months together. But it is much easier, much less stressful if you can dedicate time on a daily basis. A sound mind and a sound body are basic requirements. Actually, I remember I had 12 courses to complete, 12 conventional examinations before I started my actual proposal and before going about the PhD proposal. These 12 courses meant 12 conventional examinations with paper and pencil and additional sheets. So when I was doing my research methodology paper, something happened to the way in which my hands went about the whole thing. And for about 20 minutes, I had to go take a walk and come back. So then it was a one-time thing, but I think it's very important that we take care of your mental and physical health during the entire journey of doing your PhD. There's a difference between getting through and getting good grades. So in my case, I was 60 years old. The youngest was a 25-year-old girl, right? But I topped the class, right? So, big difference between getting good grades and just passing, getting grace marks. See, what happens is, getting good grades means what? You have studied deeply your quantitative techniques and your research methodology and everything else. If you don't do that, as you go about the process, as you go about your data analysis, somewhere you may get stuck. So it's very important for you to pay attention to the coursework and ensure that you are somewhere up the first 5 to 10 percentile, and not just be somebody who goes back to your supervisor and say, get grace marks and somehow pass. That's not a that's not a good thing. PhD is a starting point of research. I just mentioned to you about my ambition to compare India and China. So this statement was the most humbling experience in my life. That PhD is not the end point, but the starting point of research. So when I come to choosing of topic, I will again reinforce this very, very important point for all of you. A PhD thesis adds acute knowledge to already made discoveries. See, someone said, nowadays PhD is not something you start from your foot. It is something that you start from your shoulder. And who that somebody is? Einstein. When? 100 years back. What does this mean to you? That so many discoveries have already been made. We are no longer in a paradigm where you are discovering the 109th element in a periodic table, for instance, so to speak. So people have made discoveries. Thousands and thousands of research studies have been conducted and documented. So in that context, you have to do your PhD. So therefore, it's very important to know this, that your PhD topic and your thesis adds acute knowledge, specific knowledge to already made discoveries. It's a big challenge. So what is implied in this? You got to know what those already made discoveries are. So when we come to literature review, I'll emphasize this point. It's very important for you to spend I took about a year's time to do my literature review so that I'm thorough about the fact that I'm not duplicating something which has already been done. So a PhD is a starting point of research. It is not the be-all and end-all of research. A PhD thesis adds acute knowledge to already made discoveries. Develop a legible and stable handwriting. See, we live in a regime of WhatsApps and laptops. Okay, that's how our finger moves. Right? Now, you know what this is? Subhash Chandra Bose's handwriting. Just look at the way it is. Like typewriter, right? The angle of the letter and everything else. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. In our school, there used to be a column called handwriting, legible and settled. Legible but not settled. I don't know, any of you are familiar with this. No longer, I think. You are all this Gen Z or whatever, or probably, what is the next one? After Gen Z, there is something, Gen Alpha. So therefore, I think you're all in this regime. Correct? So, I remember now, in a Wimbledon match, Federer was playing and Vijay Amritraj, a very humorous guy, he was the commentator. And two people were very eminent people, were sitting and then they're looking down. So somebody asks, what are they doing, Vijay? He says, I think they must be WhatsApping, right? Then Vijay didn't stop there. He said, they must be WhatsApping each other. So we live in a world like that. We are moving around, but then we are not interacting with people. We are busy with this. When I was young, when I was in school, my father got me a 4-line notebook. I don't know how many of you are familiar. So in English alphabet, you have first alphabet, second, third and fourth. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with, say for example, A, right? And how many of you are familiar with this A? Probably not many, right? This A is the fourth A. So therefore, you have to, in those 4 lines, the capital will occupy all the 4 lines. The small will occupy only 2 lines. So that is how we have been trained to do our... Why am I talking about this? Coming back to the conventional examinations. I don't know what the IIT system is. To handle the conventional examinations, to write a 3-hour paper, you got to work on your handwriting. Otherwise, you just can't make progress. Okay, now coming to the literature review. Right now, I talked about the winding path. I talked about splitting the task, correct? So what is the first task? What is the first big milestone? Whatever may be your topic, be it engineering or mathematics or social sciences or business, what is the first milestone in your PhD process? I talked about discoveries to be made. I talked about adding acute knowledge to already made discoveries. So what should be the first milestone? Yeah, but it doesn't matter. All of these people are. Isn't the first milestone literature review? Don't you have to ensure that you know what people have done? Don't you have to know on what topic I want to do my PhD? It makes sense? See, I don't know you guys, but I am presuming that you have somewhere done some thinking about all this, right? How many of you are fresh and how many of you are seniors? I don't have an idea of your demographics. So, be that as it may, literature review is the most important milestone. So, in my case, what I did, I created a discipline within myself that I will do my literature review in the first 3 months, right? And unless I am time bound, my progress may not take place as planned. So in the first 3 months, I wrote about 80 pages of literature review, referring about the 300 articles, right? Now, how to choose these articles? So this is what I'm talking about. You're aware of journal aggregators? How many of you are aware of journal aggregators? Right. And not many hands are going up. Maybe they are doing WhatsApp, I think. Maybe that's the problem. So there are journal aggregators like ProQuest and JGate and I don't know, depending upon your field, there are different journal aggregators. IIT must have subscribed for most of them. And there is also the deep web. Some intelligent searches, even Google Scholar and Google Search gives you good articles sometimes, if you're intelligent. Well, I had a way of getting quality articles in different ways, informal ways. Well, there is a lot of controversy about, the ethical way of getting articles, but I'm a believer that knowledge should be available free. So unless you get quality articles, you are going to get stuck up somewhere. And by the way, this literature review, first cut, I call it the first cut of 80 pages. Out of that, when you actually publish your thesis, when you do your dissertation, you're likely to lose about 20-25% because not all articles are of the required standard. So the way to go about is that in the first cut, you have to be disciplined in identifying the articles, but it is a first cut. So you should not spend too much time in searching articles and documenting them. The essence of each article has to be captured, documented and classified. See, if you're going to say that, okay, I've got these articles, I'll come back home and then I'll go through this, it's never going to happen. Moment you hit an article, you got to read it up then and there. Some articles you got to read from A to Z. Some articles you got to read from abstract to conclusions. I don't know how many of you are familiar with literature review. Any article will have this format. It will start with an abstract, introduction, literature review, data analysis methods, conclusions, treatises, limitations. And finally, it will say the scope for further research. Mentally note these points. So you got to, some articles intelligently you need to identify, skip and document. But you got to document. So if you're going to go through 200 literature articles, research articles, you have to document them, nomenclature them, organize them in folders. If you don't have this discipline right from the beginning, coming back and doing it is going to cost you, it's going to take you 2-3 times more than the time you will spend by having this healthy habit of documenting then and there as you go through the article. So this is a very important lesson. Refers to the research that the cited studies have referred to. Suppose I get a good 5 articles. Go through the references under those articles. Very difficult to hit the correct articles. But a correct article, the author would have referred to probably sometimes even better articles than his own article. So go to the references under there and then look for them, shortlist them, go to the journal aggregator or go to the deep web and then put it in your library of documents. So this process is very, very important. Now, coming to the topic, right? Each of you have to identify a topic, that's clear. The topic is, I'll come to my topic. A topic completely describes your PhD. The topic, the words in the topic, the way the words have been phrased totally describes the PhD that you're going to do. All right? Now, in order to ensure that that topic has not been duplicated, we talked about it a little while ago. How do I go about it? Typically, avoid taking totally embryonic, if I may say so, upstart topics. As I said, PhD is the starting point of research. You have to be on the safe side. So identify topics from research which has already been done. Typically, emulate something which has been studied, which has been already done in the advanced countries, in the developed countries, and bring an Indian perspective to that. So that's a healthy and smart way of choosing a topic. Okay. Now, once you choose a topic, as I said, in the research article, you have the scope for further research. If there is one article and it talks about a scope, and then say, okay, I'm going to do my research in this topic, not enough. Why? See, you must understand another point. A PhD is all about theory. Whatever you do, be it mathematics or medical sciences or social sciences or brand or whatever, a PhD has a theoretical perspective. You have to prove a theory by your experiments. You conduct an experiment in your laboratory. You do a longitudinal study. But after doing that, you have to prove a theory. You will be asked to prove that as per which theory your findings are valid. Now, for every theory, there will be at least 2 or 3 counter theories. Please bear this in mind. So, a worthy topic, a clean topic, no controversy topic is one in which a variety of studies which together justify the gap is the correct way of identifying a topic. I mean, all of you are able to, do you realize why I am talking so passionately about this literature review? Many of us make a mistake here. I made a mistake. I chose a topic, I did a good literature review, and yet what I did, I jumbled up 2 topics without my knowledge. I jumbled up 2 topics. The 2 topics meant different methodologies. I got stuck in the methodology. My proposal did not get accepted. Right? So that is how important a literature review is. That is how important choice of a topic is before you indulge in the next conducting an experiment, identifying data analysis methods and so on. Literature review is very important. Identifying opportunities, not duplicating previously done research, understanding that discoveries have already been made in your field, and not getting into a situation which after 1 year you find somebody has done this research. Not good. So this is a most important first milestone. So remember that winding path, right? The chosen topic should be unique and not found duplicated from an earlier study. We talked about it. Right. A uniquely defined title and the keywords summarize the essence of the study. A uniquely defined title, the keywords, right? So if many of you are computer scientists, you will realize there used to be a program called COBOL at some point of time. COBOL uses English language, right? See, very interesting thing. Whatever the field of science, whatever the field of discovery, English is the gold standard. Not Hindi, not Tamil, not Latin, not Greek. English is the gold standard. But if you're going to use English words glibly, make a big mistake. English words have been adopted in engineering, in technology, in science, in mathematics and so on. So it is very important to understand the context in which these words have been used. So that's why I call them a keyword. A uniquely defined title and the keywords summarize the essence of the study. Now, the point I just made, I'm going to illustrate with my title. This is the title, this is the topic of my research. Right? Okay, don't worry about, I'm an engineering guy, so how does it matter to me? No. Whatever your field, there'll be one topic. Those golden words, it doesn't change. It's the same thing whatever field you are in. Now, look at these words. The influence of customer perceived ethicality. Influence everyone understands. Customer everyone understands. Perceived everyone understands. Ethicality everyone understands. But customer perceived ethicality no one understands. Customer perceived ethicality is an English phrase which means something that nobody knows. It is what is called a construct in social sciences. A construct, see, all these have been derived from engineering and technology. Okay? So whosoever identified the research process. Always started from engineering and then it evolved in other subjects. A construct is a very interesting thing. It's a researchable phrase. I'll put it like that. So customer perceived ethicality is a construct. It can be measured like with a vernier calipers or a dial gauge. It is as interesting as that. So just like when we are doing, suppose you're doing something in production technology and use a vernier calipers or a dial gauge with a least count, isn't it? So the least count matters in what you take as your unit of measure. Likewise, there is a unit of measure in measuring customer perceived ethicality. We call them measurement items, right? So the influence, the moment I change the word influence to relationship, everything changes. The research methods change. The data analysis methods will change. Please keep these things. I've spent a lot of time, I'm laboring these points, keep them in your mind. At some point in your journey, this will come back to you. So the influence, it is not causal, it is not relationship, the word is influence of customer perceived ethicality on brand effect, perceived quality and brand equity. So now what we are talking about is, in my research, I use a method called structural equation modeling using SPSS and AMOS software, right? Structural equation modeling is a very sophisticated statistical model. And it talks about, it establishes quantitative relationships. There is what is called a model built. A conceptual model is built and then there are a lot of ways to collect the data and prove a point. It's very mathematical, very statistical. So brand equity is the dependent variable. Customer perceived ethicality is the independent variable. And brand affect and perceived quality are mediating variables. Bear these terms in mind. I'm going to come back to it in a certain context. So brand affect and perceived quality are mediating variables. A study of corporate service brands in India, that defines a scope. I had 6 categories of service and 31 brands like Amazon, like Airtel and so on. So 6 categories of service and 31 brands constituted the scope in my study across the country. So what am I trying to prove? I'm trying to prove that perception of ethical practices of companies has a relationship, has a quantitative relationship with the brand related outcome variables. So the independent variable and the dependent variable, there is a relationship, and I'm proving it through a mathematical modeling that a relationship exists. And the scope is also defined. So in the topic, everything is contained. He may choose a slightly different topic. The moment he makes it products, the whole research methodology changes. See, I'm illustrating a powerful point for you guys in whichever field you are doing your research. You got to focus, you got to take a small topic and not try to invent everything overnight. So that's not the way it goes. Many guides, many turning points. Very important chapter in my book. See, the guide is not God. I think many of us have this habit of thinking that I'll talk to my guide and do what he says. The guide is also like you. And you are the master of your topic. So you cannot expect one guide to know everything about your topic. So enlarge your circle of experts for consultation and course correction. If you have a dozen questions, write them down. Become an expert in analyzing your data and avoid outside experts. I don't know how many of you have already gone ahead in your PhD journey. See, in my case, when I came to data analysis, somebody recommended a person in one of the colleges, said he is a very eminent guy, he is too good in questionnaire design and data analysis. So I went and met him. I had collected a lot of data and I gave it to him. Oh, it was agony for 4 months. Neither I knew my subject nor he. So that is when one of my colleague lecturers in Madras University said, "Sir, why don't you do your own analysis?" Something flipped inside my head. That day I changed. And I said, I'm going to do everything myself. I'm going to learn everything myself. I'm going to do my data analysis myself. turning point in my PhD. Okay, if that was my turning point, you guys are going to have different types of turning points. Watch out for them. So, become an expert in analyzing your data, own your data. And don't forget, tomorrow you're going to be a guide to students. So, if you're going to take shortcuts, what kind of a guide can you be? And you will get a tenure. Your tenure will not be renewed unless you produce quality research articles. So, shortcuts can get you a PhD, but it won't sustain you in your academic career. The researcher is a sole master of its craft, not the guide. Alright, now in my research there is something called the mediation analysis. It's a very powerful concept. If I didn't do my mediation analysis, I wouldn't have been able to prove anything at all in my research. So then what happened is that I got badly stuck. And the master who taught the mediation analysis, I realized that he had not taught it in the correct way. His knowledge was shallow. I realized it. I knew I had got stuck. Please understand, nobody is going to help you. So many guides, many turning points. You got to make a process of discovery as to who to contact, who is the correct expert. Misleads abound, right? Just like I mentioned to you. So you got to understand that one person cannot know everything. So then I went to the YouTube. I must have gone through hundreds of YouTubes. And suddenly, I was supplied 2 YouTubes. So YouTube is a very intelligent medium, not just AI. So it supplied me exactly the YouTubes I needed. And I went about doing my mediation analysis and I got my results. So YouTubes is a good way to go. Now let's come to this. Publishing is the toughest part of the entire progress towards a PhD degree. Publishing is a necessary step towards a good thesis and a good viva voce. It's the first time around when I uploaded my article. Let's go through this. Okay. When I upload my article, see, I'm uploading now. The next moment I'm getting a reject. I don't know how many of you have you guys tried to publish articles? Have you had a reject experience? You did, right? At least a few of you, right? The rest of you are seeing stars. Now, I upload now, next moment I'm getting a reject. How is that possible? And not only that, don't worry. You got a good article going. You can submit again to us. Right? So, all this is, publishing is the most, what should I say, is a process with a lot of limitations. Better you know that early. And better you start trying to publish an article early in your progress of your PhD. Typically, it will take you 2 years to get a good quality article in a good quality journal. There is a process. I'll explain all of that to you. But it's an imperfect process. Rejections abound. Okay? But no need to complain. Typically, if you're having a good thesis, you can publish about 3 quality articles out of a thesis. 3, 4, 5 quality articles out of your own thesis. Studies should be strong on concept, should be strong on framework, on methodology, analysis tools, and the novelty of findings. A journal article is nothing other than a PhD thesis, by the way. Let's understand that as well. There is no difference between a thesis and a journal article. Okay? Revising and reformatting articles to the rigorous standards of each journal is an effort in itself. See, Elsevier, Emerald, and all those journal aggregators, each of them have their own formats. The first time around when I started inputting my journal article, I had a journal article ready. I started inputting. At 3:30 p.m. I started. I thought by 5 I'll be done. It took me up to 8:30 in the night. So each of them have their formatting requirements. They have dynamic save and stuff like that. So we need to understand that each journal has different requirements in terms of number of words, the way in which it is constructed. Some people have abstracts with 100 words. Some people may have abstract with 150 words. The format may slightly vary. So we need to learn all that before trying to upload our articles. Now, see, this is something which I learned myself. Before identifying my topic, I first thought I need to go through other people's dissertations. So I thought. Nobody told me that that's not necessary. So then I realized that a dissertation and journal article are one and the same. A dissertation is about bringing in the right perspective, annotating and illustrating to make a point uniquely and allowing for elaboration. See, a dissertation allows the scholar to show his scholarship. Right? Once you have your set of findings, you identify, and in 20 pages you can talk about your findings. Elaborate by referencing. That is a dissertation. Whereas a journal article showcases the writer's talent to be frugal with words, while making the same powerful point that you make in a dissertation. Nothing different, but frugal. Why? Journals cannot accept lengthy articles. My first article had 12,000 words in it. 12,000 words is like 40 pages. No journal is going to accept it. I condensed it to around 6,000, 20 pages. But that's a very good exercise. To be able to make the same point in shorter number of words is a very good exercise. Rejections are an inevitable part of getting published. No cribs. My recommendation is stay away from open access journals, except the ones, especially ones who charge a heavy fee. Now let's go to another subject called plagiarism. Plagiarism is a big deal, right? So now there are this is the way in which you will get your score, plagiarism score. At the end of the when your thesis has to go through this plagiarism checks, and your plagiarism scores are given in this manner. Okay, and you may have to run your thesis or journal article many times over to get your scores right. In my case, I lost some good references while doing plagiarism checks, and then I realized that I should not have done that. I should have used my own words but not lose the references. And there are softwares like Authenticate and what is the other one? Turnitin. There are standard softwares for plagiarism check. So depending upon what your institute gives you, you can use any one of these, but you may have to run it several times. And there are many clever ways in which the plagiarism scores can be managed. And you got to attend a course on plagiarism. Many courses are available. In Chennai itself, there are many groups. Whether your institute takes you through a course or not in your coursework, you don't need to wait for that. You can do your own plagiarism courses. Just a week-long course will tell you all about how to manage plagiarism. Some tricks. Combine references that deal with one subject in one place and avoid repetition. Suppose you're making a conclusive point. You make that point and then put all references, all the articles which talks about that conclusion in one go. There is a habit of putting the same points in different places. You got to consolidate that and push it to one place to reduce your plagiarism scores. One way of getting the scores within limits is to enlarge your own treatises, your own discourses and narrations. Because it is your own words, you get a plagiarism score of 0, right? Averaged with whatever else you do, the scores will come down. Makes sense to all of you, all this? The final report is a garland of thousands of pearls you have collected. So there's a method in the madness of putting it all together, right? And it's too short a time for me to go into the details of how you put the dissertation together. I've given you the order in which the dissertation flows, but let us look at some of those. the results tables and figures need to be finalized first. See, even when you thank you, even when you upload a journal article, they will tell you to put your tables first in a separate file, the figures in a separate file, your descriptions in a separate file, endorsements in a separate file. So even among the figures and the tables, you have to decide which one comes in the main text, which one goes in the appendix, and so on. Now, there is a compromise in that. If you put everything in the appendix, then the flow in the thesis gets disrupted. So these are all very important choices to make. Something interesting going on there? I think some discussion is going on there. Why don't you share it with us? Even, I think all of us may like to know if there are some perspectives, something interesting. All right, okay. So therefore, I think the results tables and figures need to be finalized after your data analysis. You need to finalize your results tables and figures. Identify carefully what goes into the main text and what goes into the appendix. Stick to the recommended sequence. See, there is another thing. There is a sequence in which you have to present your thesis. Sometimes you are not comfortable with that because your experiment is constructed in a particular way. There is a longitudinal experiment. There are people who do longitudinal experiment over decades, right? So especially in your case, most of your thesis is about conducting experiments, right? So you may not be comfortable with the flow. So I too changed my guide said no, nothing doing. And he gave me a way of going about sticking to the recommended way in which the dissertation should flow. And finally I realized that he is right. Okay, so again, your institution will have a standard in terms of how the references should be organized. There is a structure in which the references are organized. The authors, names, last name, first name, and this, that, vagara, vagara. So APA is one known format. There are other formats. There are also softwares which can put the references in a particular pattern and you just put it and it will give you the structure. But in my case, I did not follow that. I discovered my own way of organizing the references. I found it was much more effective than all these software. So you have to make your own choice how to put your references in a particular format, apart from the alphabetical sequence. Chapter and paragraph subtitles should be logically worded and arranged. See, there is a formatting, there is a font from the main, this thing to the paragraph subtitle and so on. The font size changes. Block capitals needs to be avoided. So you have to pay attention to this. They should be consistent with the contents page. I don't know how many of you follow this. See, for example, in a dissertation, the contents page may flow into about 20 pages, right? With all the main titles and the subtitles and so on. They have to be consistent with the write-up in the dissertation, right? So I don't know if AI can help you do it. I really don't care. But in my case, what I did, I created 2 files. I deleted all the content, kept only the paragraph and main titles, compared it and ensured that they are consistent. So 100% consistency between the contents pages and the main or 300, 400 pages of your dissertation. This is another very important thing. Suppose there is a set of references, say 250 references, and in your dissertation you refer to them. You know what I mean? You will say it is said by Eriks et al. Or Eriks and Schopenhauer, whatever. So that should match with 100% with the references which are given at the end of the thesis. Okay, now your dissertation may be about 300 pages long. You'll be asked to make an abstract of more than 30, 40 pages. It's a very important exercise. The abstract contains almost everything that there is in a dissertation. And making the abstract is a big step towards a good viva voce. See, 6 years of work, you're given 25 minutes to present. Imagine that. Big skill. You cannot lose any detail while making your viva voce. So making the abstract is a precursor to making your PPT, typically PPT. The PPT structuring also is very interesting. I used a two-tone structure, if you know what I mean. So that as I present the people at the other, see, people have limited capability to hold it in their head. So I give a lot of statements, my findings, my data, condense it and make some small little bit in a different color. So to hold interest, and for the sake of continuity of the thought process of the examiners. Right? So typically not more than 40 pages in your viva voce. So make the abstract, make the presentation for the viva voce, and then whatever extra data, put it in hyperlink and put it so that in case the examiner wants, you can always refer back to it. You understand hyperlink, right? All of you? Right. Now, typically in a viva voce, the examiner will be an anonymous person from outside the country, by the way. He's going to ask you two types of questions. One are generic questions about the research process. Now, if he's going to ask you, what is your research design? If he's going to ask you, what is the difference between experimental design and descriptive design? If you don't know the subject, probably you will not if you didn't get good marks, by the way. And other type of questions are directly concerning your thesis, directly concerning your subject. There are two types of questions. So you'll be surprised. Before my viva voce, I made a preparation into 3 or 4 pages about likely questions that I may be faced with. And I had an aha moment. Many of the questions I had rehearsed were the questions that I was asked. These things can happen. You know, you can kind of project what is it that is, possibly I'll be asked. Okay, now these are all some very important philosophies, but they're very important. And in my book, I've illustrated all this in graphic ways, adding a lot of punch and humor in it. Don't give too much importance to the results. If you're going to do that all the time, you're going to get so stressed that you won't make progress. See, there is a very interesting saying that progress is not made by looking ahead. Progress is made by looking back. You start building a garden, you've gone three years, and if you're going to be stressed about what lies ahead, you'll remain there. Go look at the garden that you have built, and that will give you the energy to move forward. Easy to say, tough to practice, but still you got to do it. Okay, now coming back to the literature review. State research gap succinctly. There are some serious subjects that I'm going to deal with in the next 10 minutes. We started around 5:15. Yeah, I'll take about another 5 minutes. State research gap succinctly as summarized from the literature reviewed. Important. Learn what each of these terms means. Research problem, research questions, research objectives, and research design. What is a research problem? See, the other day when I was lecturing in Anna University, one girl said, I'm doing a research in the subject called dyslexia. So research problem is an expression of an elaborate statement in a few pages that in the generic subject called dyslexia, these are the situations that exist that are unexplained. It can be quantitative, it can be descriptive, whatever it is. So research problem is an elaborate set of statements saying that, I am living in an environment where I found so many things to be relevant. That is research problem. The research questions is arising out of these research problems. These are the researchable questions. Find out the relationship between this and that, things like that. Right? So I don't know in your subject how it flows, but these are the necessary steps in any research method. Research questions. Research objectives. The research questions themselves don't lend itself to do a PhD, but the research objectives do, because research objectives have a quantitative element in it. So there may be 15 research questions. He may choose 5, she may choose 6 or some other 7. So it varies between the one and the next researcher, and also the way it is constructed. Now, research design is the method that they choose, right? For instance, I chose structural equation modeling as my methodology, basic methodology. In my Viva Voce, the examiner asked, why did you choose this method? I never expected this question, because whatever research studies I referred to had used that methodology. I took it for granted. Then I went back and found that there are other methods. So how did I manage that? I used a paragraph called methodological justification. Make a note of this. See, as I told you, PhD is all about theory. Bear this in mind. It's a beautiful process. It's a completely new process. So, in the methodological justification, I annotated and proved why structural equation modeling is a method, is a way to go. So what are they actually trying to find? They're trying to find your scholarship. They're trying to just judge your authenticity. That's what they're trying to find. So the research design is a way to go. Which is the population? Where am I going to conduct the experiment? Which are the measuring instruments are used to be used? Where am I going to collect the data? Which geography am I going to collect the data? What is my sampling plan? Is it a probability sampling or non-probability sampling? And how does the sample, what is the sample size I am going to choose? And from the sample size, which population am I going to draw conclusions? Right? Suppose I am doing my research in chemistry, I conduct an experiment, and then I have several solutions with some element missing in something. In one solution, the plant grows fully. Other solution, it doesn't flower. So these variations are my findings, right? So the research design is a matter of full detail about how I'm going about doing my research. So please understand, that is why subjects like research methodology and quantitative techniques are very important to learn. And as I said, English is the gold standard in defining these terms. Adopting the English language in the context of engineering, in the context of medicine, and so on. These are the 4 classifications of all types of research. Most of you probably will be doing the causal investigation. But I don't know. It may not be. What is exploratory? Exploratory research is to draw initial hypothesis on a subject of interest. I talked about dyslexia. So you go about interviewing people. There are standard methods to do interviews on exploratory research. In my study, I had 3 chapters in my research. The first chapter, which took me about 9 months, was exploratory research, with which you draw hypothesis for conducting your quantitative research. So, exploratory research in any field, when you do a literature review, you may need to do an exploratory research and say, look, in India, as different from the US, this is what exists. And I proved that it is possible for me with these variations to take and go forward in my research. There are, Chris Hart, Chawla and Sondhi, there are many, books which will give you full details of all these methods. This is the structure, how the research design is chosen. Exploratory, conclusive. In conclusive research, it is causal research. Causal research is typically in which you conduct an experiment and you have a control group, you have an experimental group, right? And then you draw comparisons between those. There are statistical methods to do the comparison of the data. Again, in descriptive research, you have one sample or multiple samples. Longitudinal design is something which takes place over at least a minimum of 4 time periods. You collect data with the same set of assumptions over 4 time periods, and draw conclusions by whatever data analysis methods. That's another big subject. Very difficult to cover all this in a short session. But read my book. You will get a lot of indications of how to go about it. Okay, so therefore each, this is the back. Every dissertation needs to succinctly state how your study is characterized and classified and how the design of the study is derived. It's an important part in your dissertation. I talked about justifying your methodology. Okay, now I don't know how relevant this is in this audience, depending upon if you're going to do your work in social sciences and brand, all these are very relevant of identifying a model, conceptual model. And okay, I'm going to not indulge too much in this now. We can talk about it. Anybody who's interested in reach out to me. Choosing the type of sample, there are 4 probability sampling methods, 4 non-probability sampling methods. Typically, random samples are very difficult to obtain in India. So there is a method called snowball sampling in non-probability methods. If snowball sampling is done intelligently, as per some prescribed norms, it approximates a random sample. There are such theories. We can talk about it when we have time. See, there are also sample errors and non-sample errors. When you go deep into research methods, this knowledge becomes very important for you to know what those errors are, how the errors are calculated. By the way, software does everything for you. But in my case, I understood the formulae as well. My advantage is that if any of you are in any subject, I can almost give you the right way to go about it. And I recommend that do not use shortcuts. Do not use AI indiscriminately. Use AI, for example, to make a summary, intelligent summary, but don't depend on it too much. Only the AI will learn, you will not learn. And if you're going to do your PhD without any learning, you cannot be a good guide. So that's my broad advice on this AI interventions. How to use AI, where not to use AI, the big subject. There are very many interesting things about choice of sample, which statistical method to use, how to reduce errors by increasing the statistical power, big learning. So I think I'm going to kind of go through this quickly and not... So the other important aspects of research are what are called validity and reliability, right? So these terms will come, whatever be your subject of research. What is validity? When you're measuring some data, right? Suppose there is a least count, and that least count demands that you use a dial gauge or a micrometer. You cannot measure it with a vernier calipers. So a vernier caliper measurement is not valid. Suppose you measure temperature. Can you use a barometer? Don't say yes. So it's not a valid instrument. So likewise in social sciences, right? So that is valid. I'm giving very simple examples to illustrate a point. There are 4 or 5 different types of validity. There is internal validity, there is construct validity, there is discriminant validity, to ensure that what is measured is what is measured, whatever is to be measured is measured with the right instrument. That is validity. Then reliability. Reliability is consistency. Now both of us are measuring with the same instrument. Both of us should produce almost the same results. That is consistency. Then there is called, there is a time to time, I'm forgetting the terminology, when it is measured over 2 different periods of time, it has to be reliable. So there are again 4 or 5 different types of reliability. Again, software will give you all the measures. But better to know the subject before you use the software. Okay, I'm just going to rush through this. So we talked about this. So that's it. I'll pause here and take some questions. I hope that was it.
Scale. The Indian side problem is a scale of 10, tough problem. And what you guys say is about the acute knowledge of the PhD. Then I'm scaling up to 3, 1 to 3.
Okay.
Okay. And after that, when I'm going to postdoc, I'll go to 4 to 6. And after postdoc, if I come to the academia, then I have to guide my student. And that student should have to, started not from the scratch. So again, they have to start from acute knowledge 1 to 3. So when I'll get the time to study about the scale of 10 problem, and when I'm going to that, there will be a leg.
Yeah. I think very important question. See, research never ends. A true researcher never stops. The other day, I was looking at one of my own colleagues who's an expert in radar technology. The number of articles he has published is mind-boggling. So, if once you get your PhD, there are people who do longitudinal studies for some 2-3 decades. And especially in foreign countries, they're very heavily funded. Okay, so if I want to compare India and China, I can still do it. But I need to have the resources. For example, if you become a full professor, you will have a lot of students there'll be a research scholar or two. You may deploy them for some data collection. I've gone through the process as well. And put it all together, you will give the broad framework. There'll be many data collection points, right? And there'll be several conclusions to be drawn. So therefore, postdoctoral studies, there are so many different types of meaning. From small, like you said, from a scale of 1 to 10, the size and scope can vary. Even, for example, my dissertation, it can be extended to more number of services. It can be extended to other countries, other geographies. You see what I'm saying? But the important thing is, the PhD process itself is extraordinarily strenuous. If you're going to take a big subject, or for example, if you're going to take a complicated conceptual model, never get a model fit. And they don't want you to do it also. So the clever researcher is one who is able to understand the minimum requirements and goes about it. How do you know the minimum requirements? See the beaten path. Do your literature review. Find out how the other studies, people who have gotten their PhDs have gone about doing their research article published. That will give you a hint that itna karne mein theek hai. Once I get this, I am eligible to get my PhD. And when you get time, you try to elaborate. You bring your own perspectives. So that's of course, that is left to you. You can add some color to your findings. Like for example, in my case, I could have done what is called a moderation analysis. Add one more aspect to my dissertation. But you got to focus. I think, am I answering your question? Yeah.
And so secondly, to ask my question, I'm just taking one small example.
Yeah.
So I read a book. Just imagine a small boy of class 2-3 and he read a book and start mentioning that don't drink pond water.
Don't drink pond water.
Because it will affect your health. And another guy who don't read that book, he go there drinking that pond water and after that he is going through a diarrhea process. So he faced the disease, what pain he is going through. So same question I am asking you, that if I want to be a one guide and when I'll do mistake in my PhD research, that whatever you mentioned that you don't do it, doing like that, this is my experience from that. So those mistakes when I'll do, so later when I'll teach some student, then it will be very easier for me to teach them. So as if I want to be a guide for future generation, so what will your recommendation? To experience those mistakes or reading your book?
Brilliant question. You read my book. Because I have in my book, what I didn't tell you today is I wasted 1 year in choosing the wrong institution. Okay? A very painful process. I could have stopped and said, नहीं यार, करना नहीं है, नहीं लगता. तो भगवान ने ये नहीं किया कि मेरा डेस्टिनी ठीक नहीं है PhD करने में करके मैं I could have stopped it, but I didn't. So what happened is that some guide pointed out to an institution in Hyderabad. I went there. I did the UGC examination. I got very high marks. Okay. If I wanted, I could have become an assistant professor. Right. So after doing the UGC examination, I went there. Every month I used to, because my clients were there, I used to go there. There was an endless way of saying that. Lady said, sir, one more month, like that. Then finally I realized there is a chakkar in the admission process. I had to change. Right? About a year went waste in the process. But that has kind of given me an extra wisdom. And that is why I put that data also in my book. So now, in my case, I made a mistake in choosing the wrong institution. But in your case, you may make some other mistake in either choosing a wrong topic or a bigger topic or confusing a methodology. It's possible. But the whole idea is to minimize it. Mistakes are going to happen. It is a winding path. It's not a straight line path. Makes sense to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. You'll be a better guide if you... By the way, the Vice Chancellor of my university took 11 years to get his PhD. Most cited author. One of his articles had 754 citations. And the poor man had to go through change of guide, not only change of topic, change of guide and so on and so forth. So there are people who go through such painful processes. They are the wisest of them all. There's no question about it. But I don't recommend you go through that process. Right?
Any other questions?
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned that we should not choose the open access journal for publishing our research. But nowadays, maximum journal became open access. Even if 1 year before they were hybrid, but now they are also open access. So we have very limited journal which are hybrid, like subscription based or so. Like why you just mentioned like why we should not choose open access just because it's a costly. We have to pay.
because you know I think it is. See, I tell you, it is possible to find good journals without paying a fee, which is why I recommended. So therefore, I did not go through open access journal because I didn't want to spend a lakh of rupees. It made no difference whether you will get published or not. Okay. Now, I used a journal finder. See, in journal publishing, there are so many stages. I don't know if you're aware or not. Let me tell you about that also. There are 5 stages. You upload, you get an acknowledgement, and it takes about a few months. And then they assign reviewers, maybe 2, maybe 4, maybe 1, I don't know, depending on the journal. And that data that information will come to you that your journal has been assigned a reviewer. The reviewer will take their own time to give a feedback. And when and if they give the feedback, you will be told whether your journal needs a major correction or a minor correction. Okay? So it just keeps going on like that. Now, so I use a journal finder because, you know, every journal has got a preferred set of topics. So you got to find a match between your topic and the journal's preferred topics. But having said that, journals also deviate, but not beyond a point. So if you follow this process, you can get published. But
I felt like now the transparency is not there. Journal which are hybrid. And when we find journal through Journal Finder or any other app that our work is how much similarity with this journal. Even it is showing this journal is the best match for you.
Sure.
The journal, even first review, second review, they can reject any stage.
Yeah.
But the same journal will publish the work even because it's a hybrid. So if it's open access, they are publishing even a low quality work. So these kind of things is also there. So I just wanted to know what is the process like. Is open access making publish that work?
It's like this. I only stated my attitude and my method and my preference. If you noticed, I said I don't believe in open access journals. So you got to make your own choice. You should not follow each and everything that I say, literally. Each person has to make an intelligent choice. as to, okay, this is how I'll go about it. See, another thing is that whether it is a book that is written or a lecture that is given, we don't state so many things.
Yeah.
There are many unstated things which are not very pleasant. So we need to deal with all those. See, as somebody said, na, thoda jaan ke chalo, thoda मान के चलो. ठीक है? तो एम क्या है? वो डॉक्टर का ये अपनाना. बस खत्म.
Yes.
So you be smart. Don't be over smart. Otherwise, you can never be a good guide when you have people working with you for a PhD topic. I'm not answering your question. I'm joining a dialogue with you. I understand your dilemma, but
Yeah, because these kind of things now it's more like journal. Even 1 year before or 6 months before, they were hybrid. But now maximum journal is making open access. Even because that US funding is stopped, so many things were there. So
okay.
now open access, I thought in more demand. But we don't have a choice to send our paper in open access. Students
Okay.
don't have a choice.
Okay.
So that is a different thing. That's
That's the institute's choice.
that is institute. Or
Each
guide.
institute has a. By the way, there are some institutes which prescribe, okay, only these journals.
Like
I really don't know why there should be such a restriction.
so we don't
So-
have that choice that
Yeah.
we can choose which
Yeah.
journal we should publish.
Yeah,
So I thought our main aim should be publish the paper first.
absolutely. Absolutely. Get published.
That's the
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sir, how much? Should I? How much support did you get from your university versus how much did you have to figure out on your own? You know, using your own networks or, you know.
10% support, 90% figuring out.
Okay.
It varies. See, now the thing is that the guide can tell you what not to do. Because guide is a very wise person. Please understand. My guide helped me to, away from the mistake I made in choosing, by jumbling up 2-3 topics. He pointed that out in time, told me exactly which one to choose, and I really respect him for that. But please understand that you cannot go to the guide. His time is also limited. So that's why I said always have a set of questions. And then, in the mediation analysis, I found one person who had actually passed out from IIT dorms. I came across her in a university. So I knew that she is an expert in that area. So there is also a subject called discriminant analysis. I didn't get my results in discriminant analysis. So she pointed out to what are called chi-squared tests. But I said, I'll need 10 minutes of your time. I took 30 minutes of her time. But that's it. So you have to respect people's time. So naturally, if you expand your network, better, isn't it? So support from the university is okay. But ultimately, you are the master of your subject, isn't it? And over-depending even on the institution is not a very smart thing to do, even otherwise. Leave alone this 10% and 90%. It is better that you own everything. I don't know if am I tuning in with your anxiety, or you can also expound further as to what your experience is.
No, I just it's not about support like that.
Yeah.
It's also that in a sense there will be a certain expectation that the university will have to provide a nurturing environment, right?
Right.
So how do we balance that with the kind of autonomy that you're talking about, the kind of autonomy and the solitary problem solving, like
Yeah. See, you got to be mentally tough. So it's a very lonely journey. And there will be periods in which you won't get your results. So you got to have the staying power. No institution or no nourishment is going to help. See, goody ways of nourishing and trying to be empathetic is not going to help the students. The student also has to deserve the help, isn't it? I'll put it that way. So, if you're going to go to war, if you're going to fly an aircraft, you got to be fit to fly. Now, in fact, I can tell you, I went through health setbacks also. not just in that examination. I went through it all, right? So people have social commitments, family commitments, Garka commitments. And therefore, some of these lessons of making daily progress, connecting with more number of people, ensuring that you do your literature review well, if you follow those processes and don't have shortcuts, the number of mistakes get reduced and the stress levels come down in getting a PhD. I mean, kind of.
Any more questions?
Someone can also share their experience in 2-3 minutes. Any one person can talk about their experience, how they chose their topic, in which field they are doing research. And that will be a good sharing. That is a way we can create a bridge between what I have spoken and what we hear from them.
Maybe a fresher who can talk about their journey,
Or
how
somebody
they
who
started, and how the person who is doing from past few years.
Yeah. Anyone, 2 volunteers, 1 volunteer who has done for a few years, I'd like to hear from them.
Just a few words to inspire other people.
Are you a fresher or you are an experienced person? So who's the person who has spent more than a year here? Yeah. Can we talk about your experience?
Hello everyone, my name is Jyotsna. So right now I am in my last semester, 10th semester, and I am about to write my thesis and complete my PhD. So when I am from electrical background, but I joined here now I'm working on biophotonics. So the area is completely different, what I have worked. But the thing is that I have chosen instrumentation and AI and all because I wanted to do different in my PhD. Even for further also, I just want to switch my topic. So I have never worked on agriculture area. I just know basic things, but I have never worked on agriculture. So when I joined my PhD, I got very different topic, endoscopy and all. But I don't even have an idea of biomedical things. So first semester, second semester, I was doing my coursework, but I have to search about, like sir told, I have to do literature survey because this is the topic I got assigned to work. But when I was doing my coursework, so I found interested in hyperspectral imaging because I thought everyone is familiar with the camera. So like he's capturing photos. So this is also one kind of camera. But normal camera can capture only the 3 channels like red, green and blue. Everyone knows. But hyperspectral camera which can capture 100 of bands or more number of wavelengths. Basically you can just understand like it will give more information about any kind of sample, if it's a agriculture sample or biomedical sample or any other kind of material. So that was the topic of my research. But how I got this topic? So during my coursework, when I was taking some photonics course because it is a new for me, so I have to take that course. That time only I have to give one presentation on this topic. So then I realized that this topic I can relate more because somehow I know some instrumentation. At the end, I wanted to make this instrumentation for me. So I just changed my topic even second semester itself, and I just landed off on this topic. And I thought my decision was correct because now I'm in the correct state. I published my paper like sir told. If you're publishing your research on early state, it will be not that stressful when you are in your 4th year or 5th year. So luckily, I published my research in very 2nd year and 3rd year. So that time itself, I completed the criteria. And I can say with my experience, it's a very good feeling when your first paper will get published.
Yes.
You will get that feeling, okay, now you are about to get degree. Because the minimum criteria, we need to at least publish one good quality journal. Or I thought first paper, if you are not getting Q1 also doesn't matter. But once you will publish that first paper, even it's Q3 or Q2, with time it will upgrade or what. But I thought that feeling is something very different once you join this PhD. Then only you will think, okay, now I got something. So still I'm end of my PhD and I'm still figuring out what I have to do further. So I'm thinking now for my postdoc. So if I'll finish on time, like that was on process. So I thought that's the happy feeling we will get if we will finish on 5 years or 4.5 years. So I don't know other than me who is in the journey, but if you will publish your research somehow in first year, second year, third year, you will get that feeling.
Absolutely. Well put. Thanks for sharing.
A big heartfelt thank you, sir, for such an insightful and inspiring lecture for today. Hope this might be helpful for everyone in this room. A small token of appreciation from the SCR office.
Already tokens are available. Yeah, sure. Thanks everyone. All the best.